Greetings. My name is Sol Bianco. This is WayFarer, WayShower. I'm glad you found your way here. Here is currently home, brunch, Mount Shasta National Trinity Forest. In some such order, those words belong together. And I'm sitting with the reality of this being my last full day here for this moment in time. And I really truly don't want to leave. I didn't really understand when I began this experiment that I was going to be experiencing the greatest sense of freedom and stability / security and independence and peace and homecoming that I've arguably experienced ever up to this point in my journey. I've lived in a lot of places and a lot of different environments, and not that I have anything against a structure that is set in the ground. Really truly having a vehicle that also is serving as a place to live, it's life-changing for someone like me. And experiencing literal growing pains in this moment. In the sense that I've been talking a lot about the feet and shoes, the soles, the soul. My feet are growing. I'm realizing that the pain I'm experiencing in my feet, it's not just about the wound or walking barefoot. It's literally about the feet growing and the growing pains associated with that. In a way, even though I'm really sad to be giving up this vehicle, returning it to its owner, I also feel as though it itself is kind of like my shoes in the sense that it's just a bit too small. And I feel my body wanting to break through that feeling of constriction. And on the one hand, I feel as though I'm taking necessary steps. And on the other, it still feels as though that breakthrough that I've been seeking is still eluding me for the time being. There are two thoughts that I'm entertaining at this moment, and I'm wondering which one to go with. I'm going to say briefly the first one just because I'd love to pitch this question to humans out there. I've really, really, really been sitting in contemplation of the question, why is it that Pisces, the sign of Pisces, rules the feet? This is really interesting to me because anyone, even with the most foundational, basic understanding of astrology, knows that Piscean people are jokingly thought of as being really ungrounded because of how spiritually attuned they are. So the fact of that sign being associated with the feet is very interesting to me, and especially informs how I've been contemplating this idea of the soul of the feet, S-O-L-E, and the soul of the being, S-O-U-L. And I think about the spectrum of Pisces and Virgo and how I was speaking to in a previous video, how it's the sign of Virgo that understands that it's those everyday mundane steps that we are taking in service of our health, in service of our space, in service of our body, that these are actually the steps within which we find the divine. Okay, so there's that thought. The other thing that's coming to me is, I know that there have been there's been talk of a universal basic income, things like this. I think about how, for example, when I was living on the big island of Hawaii, right, there were many cats that lived in this one particular structure, or around the particular structure. And those cats had been introduced to, in a sense, be a pest control, right? So at first, the humans were not feeding these cats anything, and the thought was, if they're hungry, then they'll hunt. But actually, this didn't work very well at all, because the cats were so freaking hungry, and there were humans around that had food, so the cats literally would just swarm any human with food and try to get at that human's food. To the point where then they decided to initiate a new strategy, and it was, well, feed the cats something so that they have the energy and the focus to be the hunters that they were meant to be. And I think to myself, this is so simple, this premise, and just like cats, so too are human beings, you know? I think about how something as simple as having a vehicle, you know? Even if it doesn't have electricity that I could plug my laptop in. Even if there's no running water inside of this vehicle, right? You know, there are a bunch of things that the vehicle can't provide me. But the very fact of having containment and the ability to get from point A to point B means that I can go to the library and get my work done when I need to plug a laptop in. Means that I can go to the park and fill up a jug of water, the greatest freaking purest, most crystalline water I've ever freaking had in my life. I can go and get some, you know? When I hear certain humans of a certain mentality talk down upon this idea of basic needs being met for all, you know, I feel really disheartened, because I don't think that these humans who are talking down to this idea have lived without those basic needs, or have had any reason to contemplate ways in which going about getting those basic needs in this current system, in this current time-space reality, is not actually feasible for all humans. And I not only dream of, but I envision and I feel myself in connection to the creation of a world in which those basic needs are given. Because I know that when they're given, that it unlocks just a whole freaking stratosphere of potentiality within each human being, and that's so profoundly powerful and beneficial for everyone, for all involved. Not only that, but because this has been resonating with me so much, this idea of living out of a vehicle, I've started doing, you know, some research into what the reality of that would entail, right? Looking at what it would mean to have my own vehicle, and, you know, the way that the system's currently set up, it's assuming certain givens, you know, and this is something I've come up against a million times over with gender and stuff. In questionnaires or whatever forms you're meant to fill out where they only give 2 options, and it's like, okay, that's not, you know, sufficient. But there's even the assumption of a home address. There's the assumption of some fixed space And not only does that not serve certain people, but for some, it's also just literally not feasible. Why is this an assumption that is made when going about getting medical insurance or car insurance or anything, you know? It's kind of like the shoes. It's kind of like sleeping in the hatchback of this car. It just feels a bit too constricting. And the growing pains are just increasing throughout my body. This need to just crack through, break it open, you know? I truly can't even put words to the degree of peace that I feel surrounded by all of these trees. You know, and I love the jungle. Don't get me wrong, the jungle is just so beautiful. But I'm getting it, the jungle is the feminine. The forest is the masculine. That really resonates. There's so much more life energy, or rather, there's a variety of life forms and life energy moving within the jungle scape. There's much more of a stillness in forests like this. I love this place. Here's one last thing I'm going to share. Every year, for the past very many years, I've been creating playlists on Spotify for each year. And generally, I choose either one word or I choose a string of emoji, or sometimes it's a combination of both. And I do this at the beginning of the year, and I choose these things very intuitively. And in this particular year, I've created multiple playlists. The one for this year was just a string of emoji. I also created one called Root, and the very first emoji that I thought to choose was a mountain. I didn't know when I chose that mountain that it was Mount Shasta. But what I want to share is that in the same way that it seems divinely orchestrated, truly a very easy way to encounter and notice synchronicity is through putting a device on shuffle. You know, you always get that most perfect song for that moment. This is something my best friend in high school and we used to play with all the time back when it was iPods, you know? Yeah. When creating these playlists, what I've come to discover each year is that for each little icon, each little image that I choose, I hit a certain point throughout the year where that image is super relevant, and where I come into a deeper understanding of why I intuitively felt guided to choose that particular image. And yeah, it feels really perfect that one of the icons that I chose, one of the emoji that I chose for the playlist for this year, where I've been at ever since I arrived to Maui. And then obviously I came over to Cali. Water. I chose the water. But and also really I've just been sitting in appreciation for Root and for this mountain as such an energetic vortex associated with the root chakra. I've really been feeling that with so much gratitude. Last thing I'm feeling called to share very briefly. Yesterday, at Mount Shasta City Park, as I was walking, I came across this little 13 moon piece synchronometer for the blue rhythmic storm, a way of interacting with time that is divided by 13 moons of 28 days each, that began on July 26, 2024. The fact of it being the blue rhythmic storm this particular year, I'm feeling really intrigued by that because blue has been a color that's been super alive in my reality. And rhythmic, I was just speaking to rhythm and rhythmic and my style of playing the guitar. The storm to me elicits a bolt of lightning, and that is how I draw the S in Onyx Sol Bianco. So I'm just feeling really intrigued by this. If you are a human who has any familiarity whatsoever with this system of time, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. As working with and organizing, creating new systems of time and new ways of helping humans to align to their own rhythms is something that has been a passion of mine now for several years, as I believe I've shared. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you found your way here. Wherever you're going, may the way be clear. Take care.